Your home might not have been peaceful, just quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels safe, but the kind where you had to think before you spoke, where you learned to read the room before you even walked into it. You probably didn't even realize it at the time. You just thought that's how life was. And that's the dangerous part, because when something feels normal long enough, you stop questioning it. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. What if that normal is the exact reason you overthink everything now? What if the way you hesitate, the way you second-guess yourself, the way you feel tense for no clear reason didn't start with you? And most people never connect this, but your mind doesn't just forget those environments, it adapts to them, quietly, slowly, until one day you're not reacting to your past anymore. You're living through it without even realizing it. You didn't become calm. You became careful about what you say, how you say it, even when you say it. You learned when to stay quiet, when to agree, when to shrink yourself just enough to avoid tension, not because you were weak, but because it worked. It kept things from getting worse. So you started adjusting in real time, changing how you sound mid-sentence, holding back thoughts halfway through, editing yourself while you're still talking. And the scariest part, you probably got praised for it. You're so mature, you're easy to deal with. But what they were really seeing was a version of you that learned to survive, not express. And this is where it follows you, because now, even in safe situations, you still feel the need to monitor everything. Your tone, your reactions, other people's moods. You don't just exist in conversations, you manage them. And after a while, you stop asking what you feel because you've been trained to focus on everyone else first. And here's what that turns into: a mind that never fully switches off, always scanning, always adjusting, always preparing, not for what's happening, but for what might happen. Because your body doesn't know the difference between then and now. It just remembers the pattern and keeps running it, like you're still in a place you left a long time ago. But that never really left you. You call it your personality. But what if it's actually a pattern? Being the understanding one, the low-maintenance one, the one who doesn't ask for much. It sounds like strength. It even feels like identity. But if you really look at it, where did that come from? Because a lot of those traits didn't come from who you are. They came from what you had to become. You didn't just become independent. You learned that relying on people wasn't safe. You didn't just become easygoing. You learned that having needs created tension. What if this isn't your personality? What if it's survival? And this is where it starts to show up. Saying yes when you mean no. Feeling guilty for needing anything. Over-explaining yourself just to be understood. It feels normal. But it's not something you chose. It's something you learned. And most people build their entire identity around patterns like this, without ever questioning them. So now the question changes. Not, why am I like this? But who would you be if you didn't have to be this way? Because once you see it, you can't go back to calling it just who you are. The hardest part? You don't even notice it happening. At first, nothing feels wrong, just slightly off, like something's missing, but you can't explain what. You care about people. You really do, but showing it the way you feel it, that's where it gets complicated. And when moments get intense, your mind either goes blank or everything hits at once. No in between, because this is what you learned early on, not just how to behave, but how to hold back, to filter what you feel, to question it, to wonder if it's too much or just inconvenient for someone else. So instead of feeling naturally, you start managing it, controlling it, keeping it in check. And this doesn't stay in the past, you into places that are actually safe. Even when nothing's wrong, it doesn't feel that way. You're around people you trust, but something in you still hesitates. Not loudly, just enough to keep a distance you can't fully explain. And over time, that quiet gap grows, not all at once, just slowly in the background, until one day, it's not just about holding back emotions anymore. You don't even know what you're feeling in the first place. You don't choose these patterns, you fall into them. You meet someone and something just clicks, not because it's right, but because it's familiar. And that's where it gets dangerous, because your mind isn't looking for what's healthy, it's looking for what it already understands. So you might find yourself drawn to people who are distant, inconsistent, hard to read. And without realizing it, you slip into old roles, over-analyzing their texts, trying to figure out where you stand, replaying conversations in your head, holding on even when something feels off. Not because you want to suffer, but but because a part of you already knows how to function there. Now pause for a second, because when someone shows up differently, when they're consistent, clear, and actually available, something feels strange, not safe, just unfamiliar. Even when nothing's wrong, you're waiting for something to change. Over time, it starts to look like this, calling emotional chaos chemistry, confusing inconsistency with excitement, mistaking anxiety for connection. And you don't even question it because it feels real. But it's not connection, it's recognition. Your mind doesn't slow down, even when everything else does. There's always something running in the background, replaying conversations, analyzing tone, thinking about what you said and what you should have said instead. It's not just thinking, it's constant monitoring. And it shows up in small ways, reading into pauses, noticing slight shifts in someone's energy, wondering if you did something wrong, even when nothing actually happened. Your brain isn't reacting to reality. It's trying to stay ahead of it, trying to read what might happen next, preparing for reactions that haven't even happened yet. Even when nothing is wrong, it feels like something is, because that's what it learned early on, to stay one step ahead of tension, not to overthink, but to protect you. So now, even in calm moments, your mind keeps scanning for problems that don't exist yet. And this is where it drains you, because you don't get a break from it. One thought turns into 10, 10 turns into a spiral, and before you even realize it, you're exhausted from situations that never even happened. And after a while, you don't even notice it anymore, because it feels normal. It doesn't just stay in your mind, it moves into your body. You might not notice it at first, but it shows up in small ways. Constant tension in your shoulders, trouble relaxing even when you finally get time to rest, feeling tired but never fully recharged, because your body learned something your mind didn't question. It learned how to stay alert, not for visible danger, but for tension you used to feel. So now, even in safe environments, your system doesn't fully power down. It never fully turns off. And over time, that starts to build. Your sleep gets lighter, your breathing gets shallow, your body stays tense without you even realizing it. It's subtle, but constant, and this is what most people don't notice. You can be in a completely calm moment and still feel uneasy, not because something is wrong, but because your body is used to something being wrong. And if that goes on long enough, it stops feeling like stress and becomes your baseline. At some point, a thought slips in. Is this actually me, or just a version I learned to be? Because when you really look at it, the way you think, the way you react, the way you hold yourself back, it didn't just appear. It was shaped, slowly, quietly, by an environment you had no control over. And now it feels natural, like this is just who you are. But pause for a second. If it was learned, then it can't be all you, and this is the part people avoid. Because if these patterns aren't really you, then what is? Who are you without the constant adjusting, the overthinking, the need to stay careful all the time? Most people don't go there. They just keep living inside that version, because questioning it feels unsettling. But once that question shows up, it doesn't go away, and you start to notice something you can't ignore anymore. You've been living as a version of yourself you never consciously chose. At some point, you start noticing it, not all at once, but in small moments. The way you hesitate before speaking, the way your mind overanalyzes something simple, the way your body stays tense, even when nothing's wrong. And slowly, things start to click. This isn't random. This isn't just how you are. There's a pattern behind it, something that was learned, not chosen. And that changes something. Because for the first time, there's a gap between you and the way you've been operating. You're not just reacting anymore, you're observing it, and that changes everything. But here's what most people don't expect. Seeing it doesn't make it disappear. Those patterns are still there. They still show up. Just because you understand them doesn't mean they stop. The difference is, now it becomes obvious. You catch yourself shrinking. You catch the overthinking. You feel when something is off, even if you can't fully explain it yet. And now the question shifts. Not what's wrong with me, but what you do next is what actually changes things.